guys, welcome to the quarantine school. This is our next biology session, and we are in the chapter of reproduction and organism. Today, we'll be completing this chapter, wiping it off. So, let me give you a quick recap of what we did in the last session. So, last session we talked about sexual reproduction. So, what is sexual reproduction basically? It is a type of reproduction which involves formation of male and female gametes either by the same individual or by different individuals of the opposite sex. Okay, these gametes fuse to form zygote, which helps in the formation of new organism. So there is a fusion of gametes, and this fusion forms a zygote, and zygote is a new organism altogether. Then we studied about the three main phases of growth, which I captured in the first session. Okay, so there was this juvenile phase or the vegetative phase as of in plants. Then there were there was a maturity phase. What happens? What changes are there in different types of organisms during a maturity phase, and what happens in old age? So these all the three processes are basically controlled by the hormones. All the hormonal changes which happen in the body result in the juvenile to the death or the old age phase. Fine. Then we came to the events in sexual reproduction. There were three basic events: pre-fertilization, fertilization, post-fertilization events. Okay, then we talked in the last session about the pre-fertilization events, which comprised of two: gametogenesis and gamete transfer. So gametogenesis was basically about formation of gametes, how the gametes are formed, what where the gametes are formed in different types of organisms. So two basic processes, gametogenesis and gamete transfer. So gametogenesis refers to the process of formation of two types of gametes, male and female. So gametes can be haploid. Gametes are haploid cells. Gametes are haploid cells. So they can be similar to each other, as in this algae, which is cladophora. So we cannot distinguish male and female between them. So these are isogametes, whereas in human, iso or homo, these are iso or homogametes, whereas in humans, it is hetero or anisogametes. Okay, then we talked where are sexuality in organisms. So what do we refer? How do we refer to a plant which is unisexual or bisexual? So unisexual means it has only one part, male or female, whereas bisexual it has both. So homothallic and monoecious are used to denote a bisexual condition, whereas heterothallic and dioecious are termed to use unisexual condition. Okay, then we that was about plants. Unisexual in animals is basically mammals, whereas bisexual species are these earthworms, sponge, tapeworm, leaf. These are known as hermaphrodites. A term specific to them is given, hermaphrodites. Okay, then we came across the cell division which takes place during the gamete formation. So gametes may be found by a diploid parental body or a haploid parental body. In both of the cases, the ploidy of gametes is always single N. Okay, whereas the parental body can be 2N, or in haploid it can just be simply N. So gametes in all heterogametic species are of two types, male and female. We saw this. Gametes are haploid. Okay, now which organisms produce haploid gametes are haploid? These are Monera, fungi, algae, and bryophytes have haploid plant body and haploid gametes. As pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and in human beings, they are diploid. Okay. Now, in gametes, there are these particular cells we saw which undergo meiosis. These are meiocytes. Meiocytes or gamete mother cells are the cells which undergo meiosis. And at the end of meiosis, only one sex chromosome is there inside each of the gamete. Either sperm has N and the egg has N. So then we saw different organisms like the earthworm, cockroach. Okay, then the liverworts, mosses. Then we have this one activity. So the chromosome number in meiocyte is diploid, whereas in the chromosome number in the gamete is haploid, a single N. So if you want to get the chromosome number in gamete, just divide the chromosome number in meocyte by 2, and if you want to get the chromosome number in meocyte, multiply the gamete number by 2. Okay. Then we came to the term gamete transfer, where after the formation of all these gametes, there has to be some transportation. So they were transferred together so that they can come closer for the process of fertilization. So how mostly in lower or where organization in the animals is very basic, there is basically water. Water is in several simple plants like algae, biophytes, and pteridophytes. Water is a medium through which gamete transfer takes place. Okay, and also we learned an interesting fact that male gametes during transport, male gametes are produced in several thousand times the female gametes. Okay, then water is a medium, but there is also fascinating phenomenon which comes in view over here, which is pollination. Pollination only takes place in cross-pollinating plants, whereas in self-pollinating, the gametes are very close to each other, so they don't need any transfer. Okay. Now, after the transfer, when the gametes are all close together, there the process of fertilization takes place. So, fertilization is the most vital event in sexually reproducing organism and is basically can be recognized by the term fusion of gametes. Fertilization is fusion of gametes. It is also known as syngamy. So fertilization and syngamy are mostly used interchangeably. Okay, now we know that sperm has an N, egg has an N. So when they fuse together, N plus N becomes 2N. Okay, and this results in a formation of a diploid zygote. Now they are asking this interesting question: what would happen if syngamy doesn't occur? So here, another phenomenon comes into play, which is known as parthenogenesis. Okay, so they are telling, what if sperms and ovum do not meet? Is there chance still babies produced? Yes. In some organisms like turkey, female gamete undergoes development to form new organisms without fertilization. Okay, this is parthenogenesis. Now, where does syngamy occur? There are two ways here also. There is external fertilization and then there is internal fertilization. So in most aquatic organisms, such as majority of algae, fishes, as well as amphibians, syngamy occurs in external medium water, that is outside the body of an organism. This type of gametic fusion is called external fertilization. Okay, where the male releases its sperms in the water and then it meets with the eggs which are released by the female, which are also in the external medium, which is water. This type of fertilization is external. Then organisms exhibiting external fertilization show great synchrony because if they do not release their gametes at the same time, then there would be a problem in the formation of zygote. Okay, and they release a large number of gametes in the surrounding medium water to enhance the chances of synchrony. This happens in bony fishes and frogs, where a large number of offspring are produced. Also, these kind of organisms face a major disadvantage is that offsprings are extremely vulnerable. Vulnerability to the predators is at a large extent. So this external fertilization is not a very kind of great kind of fertilization, but it's cool. Okay. Then there is second internal in many terrestrial organisms belonging to fungi, higher animals such as reptiles, birds, mammals, obviously human beings, majority of plants, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, syngamy occurs inside the body of an organism and hence the process is called internal fertilization. In all these organisms, egg is formed inside the female body where they fuse with the male gamete. So let's take the scenario of human beings only. So egg is inside the body and sperm has to travel inside the female body and go fuse with the egg to form the zygote. Okay, in organisms exhibiting internal fertilization, male gamete is motile. So in our case, male gamete is motile and has to reach the egg in order to fuse with it. In these, even though number of sperms produced is very large, there is a significant reduction in the number of eggs produced. In seed plants, however, non-motile male gametes are carried to female gametes by pollen tubes. Fine. Now we next come to, okay, after all this fertilization, there is a fusion. Okay, now there is a zygote form. Now what? There are these post-fertilization events, two basically, the zygote and the embryo genesis. The formation of the diploid zygote is universal in all sexually reproducing organisms. An organism with external fertilization, zygote is formed in external medium, obviously, because their gametes fused outside the body of the organisms with external fertilization. Whereas in human beings, let's take our case only, it's zygote is formed inside. The baby is formed inside the mother's womb, so it's internal fertilization. Further development. So after the fusion, now zygote starts developing. Okay, in organisms belonging to fungi and algae, zygote develops a thick wall that is resistant to desiccation and damage. So in human beings, we have this placenta, which is uh, continuously giving the nutrition, food, whatever the baby needs to keep it healthy and growing and developing. But what in the cases of these fungi and algae? They don't have something to protect. So the zygote is developed with a thick wall, like kind of encystation, or you can say, thick wall that is resistant to desiccation and damage. It undergoes a period of rest before germination. In organisms with haplontic life cycle, zygote divides by meiosis to form haploid spores. So zygote is 2n, we know now. It's the fusion of N sperm and N egg. So its zygote is 2N. So in these haplontic life cycle describing organism, 2N divides by meiosis to form haploid spores that grow into haploid individuals. So haploid individuals are there. So let's take a plant which is N. It produces these zygote. It is 2N. Zygote divides by meiosis, forms these spores, which are N and which again grow into haploid organisms. Okay, zygote is a vital link that ensures continuity of species between organisms of one generation to the next. So let me explain this point with a very simple example. If there is no fusion of male and female gamete in a human being, there is no baby formed, there is no continuity of generation. If a male and female do not have a child, their species cannot be continued in their generation. If they have, then the baby again, if it's a male, it marries a female. If it's a female, she marries a male, and then they again sexually reproduce, and they form a zygote, which again continues. So it's a continuity of generation. If zygote is formed. So zygote is basically a vital link that ensures continuity of species. Okay, every sexually reproducing organism, including human beings, began their life as a single cell zygote. Now zygote is formed. Embryo. Now the second post-fertilization event is embryo genesis, or the development of zygote. Okay, so embryo genesis refers to the process of development of embryo from the zygote. Zygote is just a like a piece of cell. We what we call as a baby is basically an embryo. So embryogenesis is basically development of embryo. During embryogenesis, zygote undergoes cell division, mitosis, and differentiation. Embryogenesis. Okay, now zygote, as I told, it's a mass of cells. Now it undergoes cell division and cell differentiation. Cell division so that consider itself only, that mass of cells has to become a baby. So it has to grow in number so that it can form a particular shape, and they have to be large in number. After cell has been divided by mitosis, mitosis is processed so that the cells can increase in number, and then cell differentiation. Each of the cells, okay, now this group of cells is allotted for the formation of hands. This is for the reproductive organs. This is for the brain. This is for the heart. So different cells are being differentiated so that the zygote is completed into a perfectly developed embryo. While cell divisions in, while cell divisions increase the number of cells in the developing embryo, cell differentiation helps group of cells to undergo certain modifications to form specialized tissues and organs. Okay, now embryogenesis is done. Now animals are categorized into oviparous and viviparous. How the organisms are born? Are they delivered or are they come hatched from the eggs? So animals are categorized as oviparous, which are hatched from the eggs, and viviparous, which gives birth to young ones in their womb, based on whether the development of zygote takes place outside the body or inside. Okay, so if it's outside, so that they lay eggs and then they develop, it's external fertilization, external development. Whereas in human beings, the baby is inside and we nourish and cherish the baby inside the womb through the nutritional cover which is placed inside the mother's womb. It's called the placenta. In oviparous animals like reptiles and birds, fertilized eggs are covered by a hard calcareous shell and are laid in a safe place in the environment. Okay, now these things have to be incubated so that they can hatch into some organism. Now, let me give you a situational example over here that a hen produces an egg. One, it incubates, other, it does not. So, what eggs we eat in our houses, it's basically unincubated eggs. Means these eggs are not incubated. These are straightly taken away as the hens lay these eggs, they are straightly taken away. They are not given for incubation. Whereas the things which are given for incubation, so there the hen sits on the egg, provides it the particular warmth for a few days. Then the all the cell differentiation and cell division takes place in that thing, and then a chick has been given birth to. Okay. On the other hand, in viviparous animals, majority of mammals, including human beings, zygote develop inside the body of female organism. After attaining a certain stage of growth, young ones are delivered out of the body of female organism. Because of proper embryonic care and protection, chances of survival of the young ones is greater in viviparous. Okay, we take a lot of care. The mothers take a lot of care to nourish and cherish their babies inside the body. So mostly human beings have more chances, or mammals have more chances to get a properly developed and nourished offspring. Whereas in oviparous, where they lay eggs, it's very difficult to fight the predators also and protect the eggs also. Now, this was all about animals. Now, let's talk about plants. In flowering plants, zygote is formed inside the ovule. So, the pollen grain has transferred, it sits on the stigma, it generates a pollen tube. The pollen tube leads to the ovule. The pollen grain comes and fuses with the ovule. It forms a zygote. So, zygote is formed inside the ovule. Uh, Inside the ovary, there is ovule. So, the pollen grain comes and fuses with the ovule, and zygote is formed inside the ovule. After the fertilization, sepals, petals, and stamens of the flower wither and fall off. Can you name a plant in which sepals remain attached? We cannot name a plant, but strawberry, it has sepals. You see the leaves at the top, those are sepals. The pistil, however, remains attached to the plant. Zygote develops into the embryo and ovules develop into seed. The ovary develops into the fruit which develops a thick wall called pericarp. The peel of the apple or oranges, these are basically the pericarp, and inside what the fruit is, it's the ovary. And pericarp is a protective layer and it's protective in function. After dispersal, seeds germinate under favorable conditions to produce more plants. So we can see some examples. A few kinds of fruit showing seeds and protective pericarp. Peas, the outer covering is the pericarp, whereas inside what the small ball-like structures we see, those are peas or those are the seeds. In oranges, the outer orange peel, it's the pericarp, whereas inside the fruit, and they have these small seeds, those are the seeds. Fine. So here we end the chapter. If you have any doubts, please ask in the comment section. You're free to ask. If you like this video, please give it a big fat thumbs up and share it with your friends. Okay, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.